daughter. I took her to school and I forgot yesterday was President's Day. So I had to explain to her that the school was closed because of President's Day. And I was like, well, the school is closed because, it's the president's birthday, you know. And she was like, Donald Trump closed the school because his birthday. Can we call him? I was like, well, it's not exactly how it works, but okay. So I had to show her videos so she could understand what President's Day was, but she was upset. She was like, why can I go to school? I thought it was hilarious. Like, yeah, I don't think he's taking phone calls for that. But anyway, hopefully those of you that had the day off was able to.
Are you so excited? Thrilled. First off, donuts. Nuts.
Hold on, guys. Set yourselves on mute. Okay. I always panic when that happens. It's like, I don't want anyone personal stuff to get out. All right, so here we go. So we are in chapter 4, and we're going to be talking about an online presence. Now, this is going to be important when we talk about a couple of things. We talk about networking tomorrow, when we talk about building your LinkedIn account. So we're shifting our conversation a bit into promotion, right? So we wanted to get you comfortable with that by having you reach out to talk to someone to start you promoting your long-term goals. Like they say, if you speak it, affirm it, make it real. It's one thing to just write down a goal. It's another thing to start to let people know, hey, this is my goal. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to, be a journeyman. I want to own my own business one day. Like, make it real. And so, one thing that you can do to, one, start to build an audience for yourself. I know it's like, oh, why do I need an audience? I'm not trying to build a business, not all of us, but in a profession you do, right? So think about all the different types of professionals that you use. Your doctors, your lawyers, your accountants, your tax specialists, your hair barbers. Like, is there anyone here that just opens up a directory and choose the first one person they see? If you need a barber, you just Google barber and you just go to the closest one. Anybody did? I think all the men would say heck no, and all the women would say we don't do that either.
You do research before you get your hair cut.
You better know it, right? And what are you looking for if you're looking for a good barber? What are you looking for?
Sometimes I do
to look if they have headshots of other cuts they've done. That's usually what I go with.
Yeah.
And Jonathan, what were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna say sometimes I just look it up. Most of the time I have a go-to barber.
Right, but why do you go to him?
Oh, because the first time I got a good recommendation from a friend.
Exactly.
And I've been going to him ever since.
Exactly. And he's, and because he's a professional, right?
Yeah.
Word of mouth goes a long way.
Word of mouth goes a long way. Now how many of us look up the reputation of the local Target employees before we go to Target?
I look at their reviews.
The company reviews, but I'm talking about the employees. It's a trick question, right? Nobody does. I don't think any of us really care with the reputation of the cashier at your local CVS is, right? Because that's not a professional position. But if you are in a professional position, i.e., you have a diploma, people expect you to have some type of reputation. Even if you were going to just be an employee, people expect you to have a reputation. At minimum, companies expect you to have some type of online presence. It is where we are in 2026. They expect you to have a LinkedIn account. They expect you to have something that promotes yourself. You're a professional. Why would you not promote yourself? Nowadays, if you don't do it, people kind of, side eye you, because they're wondering, like, if you're all that, If you're really good at your job, why would you not be promoting yourself? So we have to get into the habit of promoting ourselves, but and the best way to do that is social media. Number one is because it's free. I remember when this became popular years ago, we would have to buy our own web pages. That was very common, but now thanks to these platforms, which is basically all they did was they just created a website and they gave everybody a web page. That's literally all that's happening, right? That's what they did. So, now you don't have to buy your own website. You can just, get a web page from a LinkedIn or Facebook or any other social platform. But there are some, caveats to being out there and promoting yourself. And so we just want to talk about some of that. That's what chapter 4 is focusing on. So yes, it is important to have an online presence. It is going to be important to have an online presence. Now, some of you already have an online presence. Some of you probably have your own personal online presence. Some of you probably have pseudonyms, maybe you play video games or whatever. Starting today, I want you to really start to think about what your presence is online. There are companies before they hire you, they will Google you and try to find you online and try to find what you're about, especially if you are customer facing, especially if they have high profile clientele. If you happen to be a Twitter fingerer, y'all know what that means. If you like to do a lot of bantering back and forth with people online, I want you to give serious consideration to curtail some of that behavior. Unfortunately, more money, more problems. When you become a professional, you have to start thinking about how you present yourself in any type of social setting, not just social online, but any social environment. I think we can all agree on that, right? So anything that you post online, has what we call a digital footprint. That means that if somebody wanted to find it, because everything you post online is not personal. I don't care if somebody says, oh, you have a personal account. It's not personal. It's sitting on someone's server, right? It's sitting on Meta, a Google, or whoever owns that platform server. So they can easily dig into what you have. Now, yeah, there's laws about what they can share, but anything you post is public, right? For all intensive purposes, so you have to be mindful of that and really think about, what you want people to see and how you want people to judge you. We've all seen what has happened with people in their careers because of what they posted online, right? About 6-7 months ago, there was a dentist, and I want you to tell me how you think about this, that got into a lot of trouble. She was in California because, and this was in 2025, a video of her from 2021 got recirculated, and she was at a conference and she was talking about how she administers pain medication based on people's political affiliations. Give me a thumbs up if you have a problem with that. Just on its face, that seems a bit problematic. Would you not agree?
I remember hearing about that.
Would you not agree? Right? Now, and she did that back in 2021. So somebody pulled that up. She made somebody upset. And the fact, I don't even know if she knew she was being videotaped, but like, you are a professional. What do you mean if someone doesn't agree with your political view that you don't give them as much pain medication? So y'all know the lawsuits followed, right? Y'all know the lawsuits followed, right? You sitting in the chair wondering why this was the worst dental experience you've ever had. Another situation happened right here in Florida. A teacher was fired because she had one of those pages you have to pay for on Instagram. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And some people felt like, she should be able to do it. Some people felt like she shouldn't be able to do it. But, I asked the question, if you have children, even if you don't have kids, how would you feel if your kid's 6th grade social studies teacher had a special page? And, nowadays kids get laptops from school. and they're online, right? They use Instagram just like everybody else. Would you want your kid stumbling upon that? Like she's supposed to be teaching social studies, not biology. I would have an issue with it. Would you not? Give me a thumbs up if you would have an issue with your child finding something like that. You know, kids are curious. They're going to look up their teachers. They're going to do that. You know, they're not trying to be facetious. They're just trying to, yeah, find their teachers. They love their teachers. And some of them they don't, but that's okay too. But, so, she tried to fight it and she, tried to make the argument that, it's her personal time. But like, is it really? Like, the president doesn't really get a day off. Do you really get a day off from representing your company? So you really be, mindful of what you post, so as you're building out your career, not just for your company, but even for yourself, right? So just know that moving forward, you're really going to have to start thinking about, how you present yourself online. I tell people the best way to combat some of that is to start a new building out, a new image of yourself. There's nothing wrong with opening up a new Instagram page, a new Twitter account, and make it be something that is business related. If you're in the VA program, I mean, that's so cool. You're already going to have a LinkedIn account that talks about you as a veterinary person. Get an Instagram account, and maybe you're really into reptiles, because we're here in Florida, and you're really into that, or maybe you're into the aquatic animals or whatever your specialization is, and do it that way, so that if a company decided they wanted to Google you, because they're going to do it, isn't that better for them to find that type stuff? And the way that the algorithms work when people are doing searches, they always find what is most recent, right? So not that they can't find stuff that you've posted long time ago, but the more that just post things that are relevant to your company, that's what they're going to find first, right? Relevant to your field, rather, that is what they're going to find first. So my suggestion to you is to really start to think about that. Really start to think about, okay, what do I want my persona to be? Because in this day and age, you all get the benefit of not having to do what we did back in the day. We used to have to go to happy hour and places like that. Anybody remember happy hour? Like, we literally had to go to happy hour to promote ourselves, back in the day. Now you can just build a social account and promote yourself. Go ahead, Zoe.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt. I have a real quick question though. It doesn't pertain to the lesson in particular, but I'm attempting to get on a plane right now, and I thought I'd have time to do the participation question, but it just got delayed, and I don't think you're gonna finish in time. And by the time I land, the the window to turn it in is gonna be up.
Hmm.
I just
So
wanted
you
to
want to know
let
what the
you know
participation
my
question is?
dilemma.
I'll be honest with you. I don't
Yeah, if
even
I wanted to
remember
get
my
to the point.
participation question. So you want me to scroll to the end to get to participate? What is your, well, who are you? Do me a
I'm
favor.
Lorenzo. What's up? I can shoot you a message on your individual thing if you want. I just figured this would be a quickest method since you're already live here.
Um, all right, hold on. Now, if I lose my students because I'm posting this, I'm gonna blame you.
Oh
Don't
no,
y'all run
please
away
don't.
because I'm putting this question up here. If I lose anybody, I'm blaming Zoe. All right, hold on. I gotta let this person in. So, see now my account is freezing up.
I promise you, it's the truth though on everything.
No, I don't. This now all these people are coming in. Hold on. Okay. Um, the question for today. What is the question for today? Hold on. I gotta see. I don't remember. See what you made me do. It's name three. Okay, so you're talking about networking. So you're gonna be give me three places or people that you can network with to start to build out your presence.
I was about to say you don't even gotta show it, girl. I was quick. I screenshot it and I'm gone. Don't you worry
Ah!
about
Thank you for
it. Nah, I appreciate you being lenient with me, man.
No
Because
problem, Joe.
I didn't want to message you afterwards, so I didn't want to, you know what I
No,
mean?
no, no.
So
It's
thank you. I
cool. Hey,
appreciate you, Cynthia, or
listen,
Miss
I
Taylor. Have a great rest of your day too.
you too, sir. All right. All right. So, you can start to promote yourself even just in your email blocks. I've seen people do that with their Yahoo, Google, start putting stuff down there, electrical technician, HVAC technician, graduate candidate, start promoting yourself so people can start to look at you that way. The quicker you start promoting yourself, and this is your profession, guys. I know some of you are like, oh, this is just something I'm doing as a stepping stone. It's still your profession. It's not like, if I say, oh, I'm just going to be a lawyer and it's just, a stepping stone, it could be, but I'm still a lawyer, right? I don't introduce myself. Hey, I'm Miss Taylor. I'm a lawyer, but this law stuff is just a stepping stone, right? No, if you're an HVAC, you're an HVAC. If you're an electrician, you're an electrician. Until you're not, that's what you are. So promote yourself in that way. We all know what signature blocks look like. This is just, saying you can put as much as or little as you want, but notice how nowadays it's very common to put your platforms, your social media platforms, so definitely promote yourself. I can't say enough about that. I know people now, I probably am a little bit biased in what I'm about to say, but I know people that promote themselves, even if they don't even, are not even fully ready, right? And I always, because I'm the type of person I always feel like, I'm not ready enough, but I also, admire people that, to say, hey, I'll figure it out along the way, and they start aggressively promoting themselves. I always say I would have the guts to do that, especially if I have a business. You're like, I'm the number one premier, whatever. I'm like, dude, you started yesterday. Are you really the number one premier? But hey, do you, right? If you don't profess it, I guess you won't be. But a big reason why you have to build a presence is because you have to network, my friends. You have to network. Next week we'll talk about how important that is. But if you think that you are going to be working your way up that ladder that we discussed last week, and you're not going to have to network, you're in for a rude awakening. You're in for a rude awakening. Y'all see, I mean, how many people believe that most jobs, positions, business connections, all that is done from networking? How many people believe that? A lot of those jobs you see on LinkedIn and Instagram, those are the leftover jobs. Like, a lot of positions are filled just from networking. People that know somebody that knows somebody. I got this job from someone that knew me. Like, I didn't even, and the thing about networking, which we'll learn about, is you don't even have to know the person intimately. That's the great thing about business networking. Like, you're not expected to be friends. You're expected to talk about business. That's one thing I love about LinkedIn. It's probably the only site that hasn't been tainted, with, nonsense, because LinkedIn is a professional business site. And even if you try to promote personal stuff on LinkedIn, like, they'll get on you. Like, just the people that are on LinkedIn, they'll be like, hey, this is not, this ain't Facebook. Like, keep that personal stuff out of here, because people want to keep it business related. So networking is very simple. It's just talking to people, engaging with people. I asked you guys to start that now. How do you start networking? Informational interviewing is a networking tool. It's something that you can use to begin to talk about yourself from a career perspective. And there's no better place to start than with someone that you know, right? How many people have started that direct? I mean, you should start it by now, but how many people have interviewed someone, picked someone's brain, told them what your long-term goals are? Give me a thumbs up if you've done that assignment. Somebody tell me, one person tell me, how did that go? How did you feel talking to them about your career goals? Who started to feel, who felt empowered by that? Like, who felt like it was real? Like, you're talking about, hey, I'm going to become this. What are your thoughts? Who got some good feedback? Give me a thumbs up if you feel like you got good feedback from the person that you're talking to. I know they all don't give good feedback. Anybody got some good feedback? Now, give me a thumbs up if you talked to someone that was like maybe a friend or a family, but after talking to them, you actually gained a better perspective about who they are or what they do. Did it? Give me a thumbs up if it kind of made you look at them maybe a little differently in terms of, because a lot of times when we network, we tell you to start with your people that are close to you, because it's one thing to know someone. Let me tell you how I messed myself up. I used to be in nonprofit. Yeah, I see a couple of hands. I used to be in nonprofit, and I was a development officer, and I was also executive vice president of a local nonprofit. And I used to have to do a lot of networking with the city of Orlando, the counties. And, I moved on from there and I left, whatever, traveled, came back. And I had a cousin who passed, she was elderly, and she passed away. And so I was at her funeral, and I noticed all these politicians were at the funeral. And I was like, what the world? And one of the politicians was someone I had gone to high school with. And I was like, what are you doing at my cousin's funeral? And he was like, what are you talking about? Do you know how big your cousin was? And she worked with like all the mayors, the governor, and everyone. I was like, what? Because I didn't network, because you're thinking, oh, this is my cousin. She was an elderly cousin too, like the cousins that you call aunts because they're so old, they're so much earlier than you. And I never talked to her about what I did for a living. Do you know the contacts I could have had? Man, I was so mad. She was even the godmother of a senator. This is that person is in the Senate. And I was like, what, are you kidding me? The connections I could have had. But because I just never networked, I didn't really talk about what I did, and even though, I kind of grew up with her a little bit, but not to the point. We went to the same church and everything, but I never had the conversation. You know how disgusted I was with myself? I was like, all that time I was wasted, and she had the inside scoop. Even Buddy Dyer, everybody from local or Orlando, he was at the funeral. I'm like, what are you doing at my cousin's funeral? Man, I was sick. You have to network. But I learned a hard lesson that day. You have to network. You have to network and start with people that you know. You never know who knows who. Just because you know someone, it doesn't mean you know who they know, because you don't have those types of conversations. Now, I'm not a big proponent of X. I'm gonna be honest with you. Back in the day, anybody remember back in the day when Twitter used to be a really great news resource? Twitter used to be a really great news resource. If I ever missed something, if I wanted to like get a good sense of what was happening with the company, I would go to Twitter, right? I would go to Twitter. You couldn't catch me dead on X right now. Man, does anybody else feel like it's changed, or maybe, you've set your algorithms to where you don't see some of that nonsense? But man, oh man, like I can't in good conscience recommend anyone to use X at this time. Just because I just think that, the propaganda machine has it's on overload. I'm a business person, I'm very linear in my thinking. I'm old school. I don't like propaganda. I don't like commentary news. Back in my era, you could really turn on any news station. They give you the news and you can figure out what you want to do with it. It wasn't commentary. It wasn't, oh, how they personally feel about things. Like, I hate that. Actually, I hate it. I'm like, I don't care what you think about. Just tell me what happened. What's the weather? Is there traffic? Did somebody die? Thank you very much. So I can go on about my day. Like, I don't care how you commentator Bill feels about like, why do I need to know that? So that's what I'm used to. I'm used to Twitter, where the businesses just go on, they tell you what they're doing, they tell you what new product they have. Now it's just, I don't know what it is. I feel like it's some gossip column, the National Enquirer or something. And so I don't like it. But if you want to use it to promote yourself and you promote your business, do it. But like, really try to steer away from that type stuff, guys, because those things are very fleeting, right? You know, anytime you start dealing with emotions or biases, or start going down that rabbit hole, those things change all the time, right? And you don't want, think about a customer base or a potential partner or a potential position. You don't want them judging you on that. You just want them judging you on you being a good whatever you do, right? So focus on that. Like, do not go down that rabbit hole. I know some people feel like they get their social interaction from that stuff, and and I hate that. I know that that's a big deal for some people. They feel connected using it, but just put your business hats on, guys. Put your business hats on. Now, you need to use it to leverage yourself, and find another social outlet, so try to use these social platforms. And this is just my 2 cents, you know, as much as you can. I do realize that some of us are not around family, so we use it to stay connected. Maybe we use it to stay connected to our friends. Like, I totally get that, but you still just have to be mindful of what you're posting, even if it's private, your private sites. And I would try to just steer away from it. Go back to old school. You got something private to say, call a person on the phone. If you can't call them on the phone, you shouldn't be talking about it, no way, right? Then that's my rule of thumb. Like, if I have a personal opinion about something and I can't pick up the phone and call the person, then do I really need to post it about it? I don't really need to post, how I feel about Angelina Jolie's hair. Like, why do I, why? I could just tell myself and move on, right? You just don't want that type of stuff when you're trying to build out your career, right? There's a reason why you don't see a lot of commentary from professional people, right? It's always people that, don't have anything to lose, or entertainers or stuff like that. You're not going to find a bunch of doctors and lawyers, doing ridiculous posts, because, they have their businesses and careers to think about. So I agree using Instagram. Again, I would just create a new site that talked specifically about, my business, and, obviously don't put out anything that's private. I don't know why, and again, I know it may be generational, why people put out personal stuff online. It gives me anxiety. You're posting where you're at. So many, how many celebrities have gotten burglarized from doing that? Yeah, and I was like, where is your PR? Oh, I'm going to be here and here and here and here. Oh, that means you're not going to be home. Thank you for letting me know. People know where you live, know where your kids go to school. Like, how does that make sense? I just don't understand why people overshare online and not think that that is a liability, right? So just really start to think about that, especially when you're doing business, because you don't want, if, you have some disgruntled person, and now they're going to try to find where you live or what you're doing. And, do you really want that drama? I've seen online, on Instagram, uh, these, what do you call them? What do y'all call them? The social media influencers? Is that what they're called? And, you know, they offend people, then you know what happens, right? Because they're always online. And inevitably, if you're always online and you're always commentating on something, you're going to offend someone, right? That's another reason why you want to curtail that, because you're not going to make everybody happy. So if you're always online and you're saying stuff, you're going to eventually offend someone. And then if you're putting too much out there about yourself, and some crazy person decides that they're going to let you know how they feel. Did y'all see that thing where a lady found the man that was talking to her crazy and she went to his job? Did y'all hear about that? Yeah. Yeah, she wanted him to know that she crazy too. She was like, we're both crazy. Like, that's crazy, right? Exactly. You think you're crazy. You don't know people's crazy, right? There's crazy. As we've all learned, this world is very crazy. We see what's in the news, and I'll leave it there, right? You think you're crazy until you realize there's somebody even crazier. So that's my advice on that. All right. So, you want to connect, think business wise. You want to use social media because it's free, right? So think of it like if you had a business, and remember I said you are your business, and most businesses have marketing and advertising budgets, but social media is free. That's why so many businesses use it, because it's free. Like, companies are so ecstatic about social media because they don't have to pay for all these advertising costs, right? That's why a lot of news commentating has gotten so drama infused, because they're trying to draw people to it, because advertisers don't really need to use commercials and all that stuff. They just gonna go to social media, because it's free, right? So they just have influencers driving them to their products and services. So companies know how to leverage it. You need to learn how to leverage it too. So you want to use it, if you can have access to people, you want to use it, but just use it responsibly. All right. With that in mind, here is your question of the day. All I want to know is, now that Miss Taylor is talking about, converting my friendships into networking, and I got to think about where I can network, I just want you to tell me, give me at least 3 people or places. It could be 1 place, 2 people, 3 people, I don't care, that you feel that you can grow your network. And which ones are you using now? So even if you say, well, I think based on what Ms. Taylor is saying, I could probably grow my network using LinkedIn, using my Instagram account, and right here at school with my peers. I think I can grow my network talking to my uncle because he has his own business, maybe my school, and my church, because I know that there's a guy at my church that has a whatever, right? So what are your 3 places or people that you feel like you can grow your network? You can start promoting yourself in your career. And if you're using any of them now, just let me know. All right. All right, my friends, just like I promised you, I'm going to get you in and out. I know some of you have your mock interviews. Good luck on your mock interviews. If you need anything, let me know. And if not, I will talk to you guys again tomorrow. Have a great day.
Have a good day.
All right, sir. Bye-bye. Hasta mañana.